You ready?
Yes, yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Okay. So, what's going on, man?
Dude, feels like it's been forever. How long has it actually been? We only skipped 1 week, right?
I think so.
Oh, you know why? Because the fucking election happened.
Oh, did it?
That's why.
I didn't
Oh, yeah,
notice.
did it? That's why
notice.
it feels like it's been so long. I don't know. I have noticed that a significant part of my CPU cycles has been freed up after this part. I know there's other worries and concerns at this point, but I have noticed that I'm like, wow, I'm actually not thinking about it as much as I was before.
Yeah. I had a client who was like, I can't have any more negative thoughts anymore. I'm all full. I'm done. I've had all I just can't have any more. I was like, we're good, I guess, as long as you like reach your limit of stuff.
Reach that threshold.
Yeah. All right. Well, so shall we do our podcast?
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah. Let me start.
All right.
Hello and welcome to the Living NLP podcast. My name is Nicholas Rave, and this is
Morgan Lane Bennett.
And here in this show, we geek out with all of our fellow NLP nuts about how much we love NLP and hypnosis. This show is not intended for beginners. We don't explain terminology. We think of this as more like two people who live, eat, and breathe this stuff and do it professionally, pulling back the curtains and talking shop. So we share anecdotes back and forth about clients that we've worked with or personal situations where we've applied these tools and principles. And we share a quote each, or sometimes it's just a jumping off point for a conversation that's relevant to these things. And then we love to answer questions from our audience when we have people leaving questions in the comments. I did find a couple of groups, by the way, on Facebook that had some really good questions. And I need to go back and copy paste them and just start using those as jumping off points.
I don't know. Your mic sounds hot to me. Maybe
it's too loud?
It's just a little on the.
Yeah, thank you. So you want to start, Morgan, with
Oh, yeah, sure. So God, it's been so long. I've been doing great work with the metaphors still again. And I got 2 of them, which I can share, both of which are nautical. Actually, there was a third one that just happened that was nautical, but I'll leave that one out. This person that I've been speaking with, his family raised them to not speak up, not speak out, and that had been showing up as a problem for him. And when I said, okay, well, tell me more about this, about that, and the part of them that shuts them down, basically the perfectionist was saying like, it's not good enough, so it's the classic stuff. There's a perfectionist inside that says never good enough. Oh, are you not having a good day again? And all this stuff again. And all. So first thing we did was I said, well, go ahead and okay. I want you to pass the microphone to that part of you.
Yeah.
Just let it go. Have it tell me everything. And after about a minute, it was done. And it's like, anything else? No, that's it. Which in itself is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Because the rest of this guy knew that knew why it was wrong, knew that like, you're not helping. Like, but just to give this thing its voice and go, and then at the end of like, okay, anything else? Yeah, there's a couple more. Okay, cool. Anything else? And he's like, right. No, that's it. I go, oh, okay. So there was that. And then it was a matter of this guy says, oh, well, this voice, which was a family member's voice, and this family member had raised them in this way, not to rock the boat and to do this stuff. And as soon as I just heard that, I was like, what kind of boat is that? And, and they were like, oh, it's like a little,
Yes.
it's like a little dinghy, and I'm trapped in there with them. I'm like, cool. What kind of boat do you want it to be? And she's like, oh, it's a 45-foot, like, he's like, it's this 45-foot thing, and it's this giant, and it's like, they're built to just take a thing. I go, yeah, do that, and just be on that boat. And where are you on that boat? And I'm in the captain, the big wheel. I'm like, yeah, and the part of maybe that part. So I kind of put a little bit of, I just saw a picture that I thought would be funny, and rather than put my fish in their stream, I said, oh, I had an image of a picture. Maybe it's good for you, maybe not. You can decide.
Yeah.
Of putting that guy in the dinghy behind the boat, way back there on the rope. She goes, yeah, he's behind me now, and I can't hear him. I'm like, cool. Now, what purpose did that guy serve? Oh, he was the lookout. And I'm like, well, what happens when you look up? I go, oh, there's a guy up there, and he's looking out, and he cares about me. And the entirety of the relationship of that changed by just going into the things we throw away. Like, oh, I don't want to rock the boat. Okay.
What kind of boat is it? I love that, jumping on that point and using that as the metaphor to turn the whole thing around.
Yeah. And then the other metaphor, which, they don't always end up so good for people, was I had a client who fell off the wagon. I was like, you're not ready to stop. And they stopped, and they went down to the point where, like, they physically harmed themselves by accident by continuing the actions that they had been taking, and reached out to me. And I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going? I'm like, it's like, oh, I broke my wrist. I'm like, oh, well, sorry. I hate to say you wouldn't have broken your wrist when I told you you're not ready to stop, seeing me. But I'm glad to hear from you. And she's like, I'm stuck. I'm stuck on the Titanic. I'm stuck on the Titanic. And I go, okay, cool. Well,
nautical metaphors.
Allow me to offer you this life raft. But you have to commit to it, and it has to be serious. And, like, I'm not trying to oversell this person. They've got money, and they've just never invested in themselves, and it's this whole thing. And I'm like, you need to commit to me, to you, to the money, to everything. And she kept saying, oh yeah, the Titanic's falling, I'm scared. I mean, all these things in her life, which are literally, like, kind of dangerous. And, like, you need to get out of the situation you're in, even if that means to get in this little lifeboat, and we'll just find it. Even if it means finding a door you can float on, what I mean? Grab what you can. now that the Titanic's like this, you can grab the chandelier and, whatever you need, get it. And I'm like, you can do this. I'm here. I'm going to be supportive of you. I'm going to guarantee all this stuff. But this lifeboat leaves at this time on this day for good, because you've already left. You've already kind of dicked around, and I'm back. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be messed with, and I need to be, there has to be one leader of the boat.
Yeah.
And that boat left, and I hope that person's Titanic does whatever it needs to do, and she lives in whatever best way she can. But she didn't get on that boat. She ended up staying on the Titanic. Her Titanic.
Really?
She didn't make the boat.
Yeah.
Boat left the harbor without her. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna. This is know what this is. It worked. We got you through a month of. She did better. It was about sobriety, and she got to her month of sobriety, and she's like, "Yay!" But my birthday's this weekend, and we go, "Cool, but you don't need to do this." No, I think I'm good. I think I'm I'm going to get surf lessons.
Yeah.
No, you don't need surf lessons. You need way more of this, because. But no, boop. As soon as that happened, down she went, and ended up getting drunk. And falling and hurting herself. And, like, I was like, oh, I mean, I'm not happy to hear that at all. And I'm not happy to say, if you had not been drunk, do you think you would have fallen? She's like, no, I wouldn't. So let's help you off this Titanic. But, always wanting to, like, you ever have a client who just wants to kind of control things? control the way things are going to go, control the way this, like not, I mean, because they're in control because it's about them, but in a way that says, oh no, I want you to do your business this way, or like, no, I want you to charge me weekly, or that like, no,
Yeah.
this is not, no. You're coming to me, and I'm here. I'm going to guarantee the results, but we're going to do it my way. And so she kept trying to play with that, and I was like, no, you know, you're coming to me for a reason, and this boat leaves on a certain day. So lots of nautical stuff going on, and I mean, it's the ocean and the seas, and it's such a big part of humanity. And it's certainly before we became just computer.
Yeah, I mean the depth of the unconscious and the
Just
depth
all
of
of
the
that,
ocean.
and like the first globalists, the first global, like the Polynesians who were just like get on a boat and like make it to Hawaii in the middle of nowhere. You know, there's so much powerful stuff to be found there. But anyway, so she didn't make it on my lifeboat, but my other client got to change her dinghy into a beautiful sloop.
Well, that hard line in the sand of now is the time is a gift that some people offer to you at some point to say, are you going to jump now? Because this is an opportunity, and it won't be, some opportunities won't be there forever. You need to learn to take that.
She had already jumped ship before.
Yeah.
So I was like, look, okay, there's no more.
Yeah. Especially then, you're like, no,
there's no more of this.
I'm not playing this
one
game.
chance to get on now or go find another boat. So
yeah, the fact that she was like, I think I want to go do something else right before the birthday is probably, and again, it's the indication of you're not ready. You know, people get ready and they're ready at a certain time, and sometimes they're not ready.
Right. So, and bless her heart, I hope she does well. I mean, I part of me, it was also another part, was like, I felt so bad for her situation. I felt so much like pity for this person who was essentially a kept woman and had always been one and never had a real sense of self. And I was like, I just like, you know, I love my sense of self, and I know how important it is to have one, and to see somebody without one. I was like, I really wanted to help. And then I was so sad to see her go. And then I was like, as she came back, I was like, cool, I'm here for you. You know that this works, and I will keep working it, and I'll guarantee the results if you choose. And then like kind of, oh, but is it okay if we this or that? I don't really know. You know, like, no, it goes this way. This boat goes this way, and I'm the captain, and you're going to get on it or not. Yeah. And some people do, some people don't. So
the way that I try my best to mitigate the frequency that this happens is that I tend to be, when I get in an enrollment conversation with people, really good at building a lot of rapport. I can make people feel really comfortable with me. So my challenge is I have to test people a little bit right at the beginning. And I mean, I think a lot of people do this in different ways. I will often out loud say, one of my intentions in this first conversation is to see if I can scare you. And I'm going to say some stuff at some point that my intuition is going to tell me, and I'm going to go, oof, I don't know if I want to say that. And then I'm going to say it anyway. And I'm going to see how you respond to it. And that is the test. And if you state that ahead of time and then do it, people will often go like, oh, I want to live up to the, but I also, and then it's a neat trick, sort of like a suggestibility test, right? Like they're stacked in your favor. And this is sort of stacking it in your favor, but it's also getting them to go, no, I am the kind of person who is going to commit to this. And it doesn't always work. Of course, you still get people who kick the tires and don't really take it seriously. But I have a very like, I don't need your money attitude when I'm enrolling people. Is like, listen,
kind of what it was. It was like, look, and I'm giving you kind of a deal compared to what I know you're going to be more work than most people, and I'm going to get, you know, but I like what you said about you know, I'm gonna test you and we see how you respond. Reminded me of the Venture Brothers when Sergeant Hatred is interviewing Dr. Venture, about being his new arch enemy. And
Oh,
he's like, your response to the test is part of the test.
yes. Yep, exactly.
All right. Well, what do
Uh,
you got?
all right, cool. So my anecdote is actually sort of related to your first story there. And the first insight that you shared about asking, is that it? And the person empties out, and how that alone can be a profound healing to just go, that's it. There isn't any more. There's a finite limit on the things you're worried about.
Right. And it's also the frame of cool. Anything else?
Right, right.
Like,
Is that it? Yeah.
it's kind of like, oh, is that it? Is that
Yeah.
all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't you have any more? Can you come
Well,
up
no
with
big
some more? Come
deal. I
on.
mean, like,
Like,
oh, so that's it. Like, and
yeah.
instead of going, oh my
Oh my
God.
God.
Oh, that's so much so. So yeah, go ahead.
So I have a client who, I think I told a story earlier about the beginning part of working with this client. They came to see me because they're considering a major career
Can you hear me? Oh,
change.
there you go. Your
Yeah.
audio cut out on me for a second.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
So you think you have a client who you whatever?
So I'm working with a client. I think I may have told the beginning part of this story before. I'm working with a client who is considering a career change. She's in her 50s and is considering becoming a coach. And so wisely decided maybe I should try coaching before I become a coach or start becoming a coach. So we had some great conversations right at the beginning. One of the things that I found most exciting is that I said to her, you're going to have a much easier time learning how to coach if you're already coaching. To a certain extent. And I know you need education. I'm a big believer in training. And at the same time, I told my metaphor about you have to be better than a lamppost, right?
Right.
So she's talking to this woman, one of her friends, and coaching her within 2 weeks of us starting to work with each other, which just that idea of like, take action now is so valuable. So fast forward, she's now joined a 6 month really intensive coaching training program that I helped her pick from a few different ones and look at like the specifics, and it's awesome. They're really, really good. I've never heard of them before, but I'm like, damn, this curriculum is solid. And so then they're like, you have to get a certain number of hours of coaching before you're done with the program. And she's like, oh, I'm really overwhelmed about this. How am I going to do this? And I did a very similar thing to what you did, which is chunking down, right? The power of chunking down. When somebody's overwhelmed, you get specific. Well, how many hours exactly do you need? Okay. How much time do you have to complete that in? Okay. So how many clients do you need to be seeing in order to get that an hour a week? And it's like, oh, you need 3 clients. Oh, guess what? You already have one. You only need 2 more clients. Now, do you think you can go and find 2 more people? And just watching her go from
Right.
this, like, oh my God, I don't think I could do this. I'm worried, and she wasn't free. I'm exaggerating. She's not freaking out that much, but I could tell under the surface, she's like, I don't know what to do. And in a matter of 15 minutes of those questions, she's like, 2 clients, I think I can do that. So she shows up a week later and she's like, well, I had my first session with one of the new clients. And I'm like, you already got, wait, one of? And
Right.
she's like, yeah, I found 2. And then I found 4 more. And I sent those to my fellow classmates
Nice.
in the coaching program. And I had to stop and be like, I don't think you recognize how much of a go-getter you are. Like, you don't know how many people, I don't know what their statistics are, but my guess would be 80% of the rest of your class is going to get to the end of the class and not have done a single hour. And you not only are going to have all of your hours and more, because we were estimating high with 3 clients, you're going to have all your hours and more. You also gave 4 clients to other people. So it was just this awesome culmination of seeing how far she's come and these little steps, like little bits of techniques and processes, and then getting her to take action. And slowly but steadily, like beginning of next year, she's going to be in a place that when we first started talking, she's like, I don't know if this is even something I'm going to do in the next year or 2. And within 6 months, she's going to be in a place where, seriously, if she wants to, she could fill her practice and quit her job. She's got the skill.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was super fun, and it was just such a simple one that it's fun to see the little ones work.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
They're still awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even like you said, like write it all out. What are your things? I think
Right.
it was one of the things, the early things you guys taught was like, when someone's overwhelmed, get them to write it out. It's probably like
That's
10
it.
things.
Yeah.
And 4 of those are probably the same, just written in a different way.
Exactly.
And you go, oh, wait a second, little tiny bite-sized chunks.
Yep.
Yeah, very good. It's so nice to see the simple things work. And like you said, like even just like what kind of boat, or what kind of things, how many hours? Okay, cool. What do you need? Boom. And what's in the way of that? Okay, cool. Now you know what's in the way. Now we deal with that. It's yeah, it feels good to do. Feels good to clear that kind of stuff with people and have it cleared for yourself too.
Yeah, and it's also, as simple as the technique is, the concept behind it, the hierarchy of ideas and the concept of chunking up and chunking down and laterally and all this, that is a framework that I am shocked that it has not grown more outside of NLP. Like Gregory Bateson originated the term and the concept, and I know it exists in like language and stuff, but it's so useful in everyday life. It's so useful for making sense of the world and how people are talking to you and how you're thinking. It's also like a deeply occult principle too. Like there's a term in occultism.
Above, so below.
What?
As above, so below.
That's part of it. That I see as like projection, or perception is projection, but there's a term, solve et coagula. And it's often represented as like one hand pointing up and one hand pointing down. And solve means to dissolve into its constituent components, and coagula means to coagulate and synthesize into something new. That's chunking up and chunking down. And that's considered one of the most important principles for navigating inner space. Is like, you can't make sense of this thing if you don't know how to do this solve et coagula thing, which is, I wonder if Bateson actually had background in that stuff and he brought it into his epistemological work. I've thought about that because a lot of those guys did. I mean, what's the Jet Propulsion Laboratory guys who were like, like trying to summon demons and send rockets to the moon,
right. And make incendiary propulsion.
That is a fascinating story.
And I couldn't bring myself to watch the whatever they made of it. It was some TV show.
I didn't either, and I felt the same kind of like, this is probably going to be
CBS to do that.
Yeah. Sorry. No shit.
Sorry.
It's sort of the same reason I didn't watch the Queen movie. That I was like, they cut out all the parts of Freddie Mercury's life that I would have actually been interested in seeing.
Right. But boy, I remember learning that. I was like, wait, what? With who? And they what?
And L. Ron Hubbard was there? Yeah. What the fuck?
Okay. And Aleister Crowley? And like, okay.
Yeah.
Erase that from the
that's just don't go over here.
Yeah.
All right, you got a quote, my man?
I do, I think. So let's see here. From a book called A Sense of the Cosmos, a classic
Who wrote this?
New York used paperback book that I used to just devour all these things. The Encounter of Modern Science and Ancient Truth. Where are we at here?
Who's the author, man?
Excuse me. Jacob Needleman.
I don't think I recognize that.
I don't know why I was trying to. It was just one of those things.
Speaking of Cosmos, I've got my NASA shirt on today.
Yeah, it stands for.
What?
Because of the Jack Parsons thing, that NASA stands for Nazis and Satanists. Well, because you got your Werner von Brauns. Yes. And all the rest of those guys, and your Jack Parsons and all those guys. You're like, whatever.
But they make really good rockets, Morgan. Yes. Come on.
So this is a longer paragraph, but then I'll pull out just one quote. The impersonal view of the body fostered by modern medicine has very much the same consequences as the impersonal view of the cosmos fostered by modern science in general. In both cases, man persuades himself that he is free to choose his manner of relationship to a reality that, in fact, includes him and influences him at every turn. But in order for man to relate freely, there must be something in him that is free to relate.
Ooh.
So the rest of it just kind of like saying, yeah, we live in this world and everybody thinks they're free. But the part I liked was, in order for man or humanity, it was now that we're not writing books in the 60s, in order for, although some people want to change humanity as well, 75.
A person. In order for a person.
In order for a person to relate freely with the universe, and there must be something in him that is free to relate. And I think that that's a lot of what we help people do, is free up the thing that is doing the relating, so that they can be free to relate in a world or universe that is free.
So describe what not free looks like, because I think I know for me, but I want you to describe.
Well, even if it's like, I'm not worthy.
How are most people not free? Yeah.
Well, I mean, are any of us truly free?
Right. Okay. Granted.
Is that we're free to believe, we're free to change, we're free to choose, but how we relate. I'm going to be this way. I don't believe that. I mean, okay, just to go to the old classic, fucking, it's either in the Bible or it's not. You're free to have this worldview. In all the answers are in here. James, you're not free to explore other thing fully, to really get into other cultures or worldviews or perspectives or healing techniques or whatever it is, because you're in this thing. Maybe it's Judaism, some of it's Hinduism, some of it's strict scientific whateverism. The fact that people aren't free is however people think they're not free is how they're not free. However, and even if they think they're free, if they're not free to not be free, they're not, you know what I mean? We are as free as our belief systems. We're as free as our ability to shift awareness. We're as free as our ability to grow. And if you are not free to relate to something, if A always means B, then you're not free.
So let's take the Bible example for a second. So let's say, because I have been a staunch believing person at times in my past, and one of the arguments would be, I am free, I just choose to live in alignment with, and don't argue because I'm going to blow it apart myself. I choose to live in alignment with God's laws and whatnot. But so here's when we talk about what does it mean to be free to relate to the universe and what does not free look like, I want to give a concrete example that's like universal. So the lack of freedom, one way that could show up for someone in the Bible context is the cultural and societal programming that they live in that says, like, even if someone says, oh, it's fine for you to go study these other religions, if you actually said, I am no longer a part of this religion I grew up in, you're going to deal with some ramifications. And that cultural pressure, that is lack of free. That's lack of freedom. It's the argument about head coverings in certain religions, right? Like, I believe people should be free to wear whatever the fuck you want to wear, including nothing. I think that should also be free. However, for some people, they will say, I wear a head covering because I choose to. But my argument is, can you choose to, truly choose to, if you are brought up in a culture where choosing to go against the flow sometimes results in your hands being cut off or your face being burned with acid, where people of your gender are not allowed to read or drive cars because they are literally told that they are less human. and then that person says to me, I'm making a free choice because I think it's beautiful for me to wear this head covering. I am fine with somebody wearing it because it's genuinely beautiful to them. That's totally cool. And I can even see how they're beautiful. I'm just questioning whether or not you are as free to make that choice as you think. And we're all bound by those kinds of forces. That's why you said, like, is anybody free? Are we free? I think the goal is to become more and more and
more free.
more.
Because again, it says, in order for man to relate freely, there must be something in him that is free to relate.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's a good one. I love it. So I don't really have a quote. I have, because it was way too long. So I was listening to, I actually have two names. I was listening to Alan Watts reading Carl Jung. And he said that this was one of, in his opinions, Carl Jung's most important pieces of writing. And it was called Ending the Inner Civil War. And he said a lot of things that were very profound. But the most interesting concept that I wanted to bring up for discussion with you was about a kind of non-judgmental compassion that Jung was claiming is essential in order for people to heal with your help. That he said even doctors and psychologists have moral scruples. And he said sometimes some patient is sharing something with you and you feel yourself judging them. And he said it doesn't matter whether you give voice to this or you keep it to yourself. The second you start going into that place,
right,
you can no longer help them move out of it.
Yep.
And I think this is kind of what you were alluding to with the, like, is that it?
Yeah.
And it's not that I approve of it. It's not that I swing to the other side and I go, yes, you should do those things that you're doing or that you have done in the past. It's that you have to be able to become an advocate for the clients and hold the belief that everything that they do is for a positive intent, even when they don't think that it is, and show them how it is that way, and to show them how the way they have behaved, they couldn't have behaved any other way, because they have to get to that first stage of acceptance before you can then go, okay, now how do we change things?
Right. So for them to relate freely, they have to be free to relate. Yeah, but like you said, and there was a big thing even in the TEP days when they were saying, okay, if someone says something horrible, you're like, cool. Yeah, I mean, not like you're like, yeah, but like,
yeah,
you know, that's fucking awesome. They did that to you, but you're like, wow. And in Igor's world, it's like, well, okay, wow. How did you cope with that? Like you turn it around and you make some kind of hero fuel out of it.
Yeah.
That makes them not the victim, that shows them the strength of like, wow, cool. Like not necessarily cool, but like you're an amazing person that you made
right.
it. How did you do that?
Right.
How did you cope with that? Rather than go, oh my God, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Because things pop up sometimes where you're like, how this, bah, it just like, it goes straight through the affect bridge to some like, kind of fucking serious, nasty stuff. And you got to be able to go, oh, okay, we're here now. Hello, who are you?
So I think of this as more of a kinesthetic strategy than anything else. There's like a mental imagery judgment part of it on top of it, but at its core, again, it's not whether or not you say anything about it, or it's not even if you get triggered and then you go, oh wow, how did you cope with that, but you're still like judging them. It's not going to work. So what do you think are the steps? What are some practices? What are some of the things that you feel like you do to help deal with that, the unconscious judgmental response? Like, how do you work on non-judgment for yourself? I know how I do it, but
I know how I used to do it, and it worked really well.
Yeah.
I would take acid in public.
Mm-hmm. And then just watch other
And
people.
either I'm going to freak out with all my judgments about other people, or I will see myself in them. I'll see us connected as the oneness and be like, how am I that?
Wow, that is an interesting tightrope you're walking there to do that.
But I mean, but I would go ride a bike down to Venice, which is the weirdest place of all. You'll see like beautiful people, psycho people, cops, gangsters, tourists.
Yeah.
And rather than like, fucking loser, ew, gross, you know, you go, oh my God, how am I that person? How could I have been that person? How, you know, it really brings up so much more empathy. If it weren't for the choices I made, the privileges I've had, the head starts that I've had from having a loving family, etc. Maybe they didn't have that. Oh God, you know, it really makes it more human and makes it not like, I actually worked with a client 6 weeks ago. They had a thing that anytime they saw somebody who had an addiction of some kind, it had this response of like, fucking loser, like, ugh, you know, because their parents told them that that's a bad person. They would drive them through Skid Row or like these places. They'll see those fucking losers. Don't be like that fucking loser. And that was a part of them that like this very beautiful, empathetic, sympathetic person. She's like, every time I see this, that. And so it helped her to unlearn that, go back to that little girl in the seat and go, what could you now know about those people that your dad, why he was trying to teach you, but like maybe he taught you in a way that was less compassionate.
Yeah. And counterproductive is, I can't think the point we're making here is that's a perfect example of the response.
Yeah.
And the point I think we're making is we all have those about some things. Some people have it about weight. Like if you've never struggled with weight, or often even if you do, you still look at other people who struggle with weight or they're overweight and you're like, ugh. And there's a judgment on their character, who they are as a person. And if it's not that, it's video games or it's people who use drugs or, you know, whatever the thing is. And then you start getting into things where it's, they're actually morally, quote unquote, actually morally wrong, where you talk to people who have done horrible things in their past and maybe they're not doing them now, but they did them at one point. So does that person deserve to hate themselves for the rest of the rest of their life? If you can't learn to forgive them, how the fuck are they supposed to learn to forgive them?
Right. Yeah. And if you can't, then don't work with them.
Yeah. Well, that is the rule of thumb. If you see the person's problem and you're like, that's a big problem, you're not going to help them. Send them somewhere.
Yeah. Or, you know, I don't want to help you get rid of that guilt. You should keep it or whatever. You know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. If you're the client in that situation, go find a different therapist or coach.
Yeah. Which is fine. Yeah.
You don't have to hold on to that guilt.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's such a huge exercise lesson for anybody to just go ahead and do. And if only people did it more, there might not be 70 million people trying to kill the other 70 million people who are trying to kill them. You know, everybody's like, yeah, you're not like me, you're a monster, and I'm gonna.
Well, you know. and as one last point here, it is possible to achieve those states without the assistance of mind-altering substances.
Yes.
You can just go out into public and put yourself into a trance.
Exactly. Or put yourself
just use hypnosis.
Someone else's shoes.
Yes.
And just go, hey.
Yeah.
Walk a mile on that guy's barefoot, callous, dirty, stinking, fungus-covered homeless feet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Or someone who really triggers you, who maybe happens to be orange with a fantastic comb over.
Yeah.
If you really want to be challenged to find compassion for somebody.
Yeah. I mean, when I first really did that was George W. Bush, who I think was an even bigger piece of shit than the current dildo. Did way more things that we're still paying. There's a war that we're still fighting, etc.
Yeah.
War crimes.
Right.
Genuine war crimes. All of that. and I had so much hatred in this, and it was like I ended up tearing my own life apart because I was like, and at some point, I had to have some pity for him for being George Bush's son. Imagine being born into that crime family. You don't have a lot of choices, but to be a fucking drunk, cokehead, egotist, idiot who's in control of things, and
who's breezed through school because of your daddy and his influence.
So I mean, I still think he's a piece of shit, and but I was like, you know what, that poor bastard. And even, you know, while I don't have a lot of time to have a lot of sympathy for our current president. Imagine being a giant asshole.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And imagine his dad, imagine his childhood, I mean, and I think there's an important point here. I find it very useful to get clear on the distinction between things like sympathy, empathy, compassion, and pity. Yeah. And for me, of those four, compassion is by far the most useful one. Sympathy and empathy can be, pity is definitely not good because it's I'm better than you. Sympathy and empathy can be helpful, but they can also have side effects. There's a really good book Howard Bloom wrote. Oh, maybe I'm getting the name wrong, but it's called Against Empathy. And it's about the idea that you can't help someone drowning by feeling like you're drowning when you're looking at them drowning. That what you want is compassion. You want to be like, I feel compassion for that, but I'm not suffering because you're suffering. That's empathy. And that can actually be problematic. So like separating these things and being like, I can have compassion for Donald Trump with zero empathy or even sympathy, but I have compassion for it. And that compassion is, for me, and it's just words, obviously. For me, that compassion is the high level respecting the other person's model of the world and getting into that.
Yeah. Yep. And
it's all just words, obviously.
Sure. But just like, how grateful do you think he is at any given point? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know if he's
or entitled,
ever felt gratitude.
Right. Or like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, to get feedback and go, oh wow, you know what? Thanks for that. That was a part of me that I needed to see, or I'm sorry that it came out. And you know, thank you for helping me be a better person. Like, how often do you think he's ever had those things? Or half the people in the fucking government have ever had, you know what I mean? But especially him, he's just really? Like, woof. So, you know, but I don't spend too much time feeling bad for him. I would just like,
no, only enough that he doesn't get under your skin anymore. For me,
yeah,
that's the rule.
Yeah, I mean, he never quite got to me. His whole presidency, I was just, as soon as it happened, I was like, oh, it kind of fits, because it's kind of, to me, it's like America's done that anyways. He is perfect for us. Yeah, he's kind of perfect. We're like, what are, you know? So I
have more compassion, and it's been more triggering for me to see the people who have been so negatively impacted by his presidency. And weirdly, I see those people as the ones who have been so uncontrollably stressed out. Those are the people whose lives have been most hurt and ruined by Donald Trump, is the people who have, or I guess the largest group of people who have been negatively impacted are all the people that just watched everything he did and fucking stewed in it.
I mean, I have so many clients and friends who are on the Team Blue, and they're all about MSNBC and the whole thing. And like the last 4 years for them he has just been like, to the point where they didn't actually do anything to stop him.
Exactly.
They're just like,
it's like everybody's waking up from a 4-year nap. Nightmare.
So man. All right. Well,
cool. All right. Well, compassion, everybody. Peace, love, and NLP, as we say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm good. You good? Let's hit it.
Later, dude.
I'll catch you next week, buddy.
Later.